How's it going, everybody? Happy Thanksgiving. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr. Welcome once again to another classic movie review. This is my review of a great comedy from 1987, directed by John Hughes, who gave us movies like Uncle Buck, The Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, and Pretty in Pink, just to name a few. The film I'm talking about is, of course, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, starring the legendary, the great, the late John Candy, and of course, Steve Martin, two of the funniest men that ever walked the planet. And to have them as a pair in this movie is cinema gold as far as I'm concerned. This is one of those movies I grew up watching and would come back to every year. It would definitely be part of my Thanksgiving ritual and definitely a tradition, just like the turkey and, the cranberry and all that stuff and the pumpkin pie. This movie is also part of that package as far as I'm concerned. And this is a movie about a guy, Neil Page, who meets another guy at the beginning of the film, played by John Candy. Neil Page is Steve Martin. John Candy plays Del Griffith. At the very beginning of the film, we meet Steve Martin's character, Neil Page, as he is in this big business meeting in New York. He is an advertising executive, and it's about 2 days away from the big day of Thanksgiving. And he finishes his meeting. He's got to get back to the airport to get on a plane. He has a little bit of trouble getting a cab, though, where we get a really cool cameo by a celebrity. I don't want to give that away. I'll let you watch the film and you can be surprised by that if you haven't seen this movie. Steve Martin's character Neil makes a deal with a guy for a couple of bucks to get his cab, but somebody takes his cab before he's able to put his stuff in and get in, and we see a quick glimpse of that person, and it is John Candy's character, Del Griffin, who Steve Martin's character ends up running into pretty soon after this at the airport when he is about to board his flight. And so these two have that first encounter, and then there's that second encounter at the airport, and then wouldn't you know it, they end up having to sit next to each other on the plane. And so one thing after another, as Del Griffith, John Candy's character, becomes this guy that Steve Martin's character, Neil Page, just can't get away from no matter what he does. There's always a situation where he just ends up with him or next to him. So because there is this huge blizzard in Chicago, the plane is diverted to Wichita, and so when they're at the airport in Wichita, John Candy's character Dell offers a little bargain with Steve Martin's character Neil and asks him, "Hey, you want to take care of the cab fare while we go to this hotel? I will make sure that you get a room at this hotel for the night." And so they end up doing that, and the cab ride is kind of interesting. The driver of the cab is a very familiar character actor who was in a lot of movies back in the day. In the hotel room, there are some great moments between these two characters, and of course, ever since he came into the picture, John Candy's character has been annoying the hell out of Steve Martin's character, and at the hotel, he does it, constantly in different ways. There is this moment where Steve Martin's character Neil has this blow up and lets loose all these things that he's been holding in that he's probably been wanting to say to Dell for a while. And all the annoying stuff that has been going on that he's been experiencing, because you understand where he's coming from, you still respect and like his character. And it's the same for John Candy's character Del Griffin. Even though he comes off like this annoying type, you just can't help but sympathize with his character. And so you just kind of gravitate to both these guys, even though they're completely, opposites of each other. They're both very likable. After that little blow up and slight confrontation with each other, the two guys go to bed and wake up the next morning in the hotel in a very odd position next to each other on the bed, which I won't reveal for you exactly, but I will say that it's hilarious even upon rewatches. One of my favorite moments in the movie. They get separate seats on this train, and the train is going along. Everything seems like they're going to be okay, and then before you know it, train breaks down, and they are, I believe, in Missouri, and then everybody's getting off the train and they have to walk a good ways to the next station or something. And so eventually he sees Dell dragging along this huge trunk that he's been taking along this trip the entire time, and it looks pretty big and heavy. And so he gives him a hand with it. In that moment where he comes up from behind and grabs the end of the trunk and helps him lift it, and Dell realizes that he came back to help him lug the trunk back to wherever they got to go. That moment always kind of warms my heart a little bit. Taking the train didn't work out so well, and so next we find Neil and Dell on a bus headed for St. Louis. And when they get to St. Louis, Neil has the idea of the two of them going solo to get where they gotta go. The idea being that so far the trip has been a disaster, the two of them being together, and maybe if they separate, they'll have better luck. And so when this scene comes up in the movie, it looks like John Candy's character Dell has really kind of taken a liking towards Neil. And when he has this suggestion of the two of them separating, you can see it kind of breaks his heart a little bit. At an airport in St. Louis, Neil rents a car and he has to take a bus in order to get to his car. And so the bus takes him way past the runways, really far away from the airport itself, where there is this huge parking lot where there are a bunch of rental cars. And he gets out of the bus, it drives away, only for him to see that his car isn't there. There in the car rental parking lot, Steve Martin's character Neil throws this huge fit and begins to have this tantrum, just kind of flinging his car rental agreement in the air, something that his character regrets pretty soon. And now he has to walk all the way back to the airport, through the parking lot, through the runway, and finally gets to the desk of this lady that is nice enough at first. And, she's all kind of smiling and just on the phone at first talking to somebody. And she's played by Edie McClurg, who was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off as the secretary to the principal. She was also in Natural Born Killers, I remember. And so, yeah, delightful little woman that has this huge smile. And then pretty soon, Steve Martin completely takes that smile from her the instant his mouth opens. This moment is one of the best scenes in the movie. It is one of the most hilarious scenes in the movie, and it has a great little exchange of dialogue between Neil Page and this little lady in the scene played by Edie McClurg. John Candy's character Dell has rented a car, and now these two guys are back on the road. And I don't know what it is about John Hughes movies and these green cars with paneling on the side. This was written by the same man who wrote National Lampoon's Vacation. You will see there is a slight resemblance to that car in the car that they drive in this film. There are some moments that get pretty hairy for these two guys, basically just like everything else that came before. Anything that can go wrong basically does go wrong. John Candy and Steve Martin were perfect in this movie. They are the perfect comedy duo. This is a movie that is very well directed. It has a perfect pace. It really moves along just briskly, and it is a very well made film. And as a comedy, it is a 4-star classic. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, highly recommend. Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. It is comedy gold. This is a movie you can find on streaming, but like I'm always saying, get your hard copies before they're gone. This is my copy of the Blu-ray, and as you can see there, comedy legends John Candy and Steve Martin, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Check it out. It is a must-see comedy for not just the holidays, but any old day. Thank you all very much for watching this classic movie review. I very much appreciate it. If you're a new viewer, if you're into this kind of thing, please hit the bell, become a subscriber. Please don't forget to comment and share, like. It really helps out the channel. If you're a returning viewer, thank you very much for your support. I always appreciate you watching. Everybody have a safe and happy Thanksgiving holiday. Please take care. Peace out. Bye-bye.